Back in 1972, Marvel UK was born with the launch of the British comic book Mighty World of Marvel. This early issue from the run is quite unique and one of a kind. Find out why in this video. Hi everyone and welcome to Still Only 35 Cents, your regular dose of vintage comics and collectibles. For this one, I'm sharing the most unique piece of comic book history in my collection, and certainly a comic most of you will never have heard of, let alone seen. Mighty World of Marvel. But before we get started, if you're new to the channel, please consider hitting that subscribe button and ringing the notification bell for future videos just like this one. I'll also be giving details on how you can enter our recent 4K subscriber giveaway later in this video. Back in the 1960s through to the early 70s, the main way UK readers got to read Marvel comics was either by US comics shipped across the Atlantic from Marvel US offices, or from UK-based publishers Odham's Press and Alan Class, who both repeated classic Silver Age stories with some localization for UK readers. In 1960s, realising they had an audience in the UK, Marvel would switch the printing plates for a small portion of the US print run, around 2 or 3% of the total run for a certain issue. This approach meant they could print the US comic in the same print run with exactly the same content, same look, same book, but with a UK price on the cover, and ship those specific copies over to Britain. In addition, there was UK publishers Alan Class and Odham's Press, both of whom had obtained the rights to reprint Marvel's classic Silver Age stories in titles like Pow, Smash, Terrific and Fantastic from Odham's Press, and titles like Creepy Worlds from Alan Class. Unlike the US counterparts, these UK comics were published weekly, adapted for the local market with language changes, but crucially, to save money, they were nearly always printed with black and white interiors. So UK readers got the same Stan Lee stories, the same Kirby and Ditko art, but without the colours, which created a whole new reading experience. Sadly though, this wasn't to last, and in 1969, Odham's Press sadly folded, which dramatically reduced the amount of Marvel-related titles in the market. This all changed though in 1972 when, spotting a gap in the UK weekly comics market post the sad demise of Odham's Press, Stan Lee and the team at Marvel US formed what would later become known as Marvel UK. This British arm of Marvel Comics went under the corporate name of Magazine Management London Limited and was initially under the editorial direction of Marvel's New York offices. They launched their first title, The Mighty World of Marvel, in October 1972 and featured reprints of Hulk Issue 1, Amazing Fantasy 15 and Fantastic Four Issue 1. This weekly comic would continue featuring reprints from this trio of titles until February 1973, when Spider-Man moved into his own title, Spider-Man Comics Weekly, and the strip was replaced in Mighty World of Marvel by early Silver Age Daredevil reprints. Both these early Marvel UK books were newsprint comics with 40 pages featuring front and back full-colour covers and CentreFold spreads, with mainly black and white art with spot colouring on the interiors. From the very beginning, these new UK-based comics featured elements that made them quite unique and nowadays quite collectible. Most notably, new covers drawn by resident Marvel US bullpen artists of the time, with greats like John Buscema, Jim Starlin and Rich Buckler contributing to those very early issues. So with that, let's take a look at my unique example from early in the run of Mighty World of Marvel and see what makes this comic book so very special. So here it is folks, this is Mighty World of Marvel issue 31 from May 5th, 1973, very early in the run. Not major key significance, but this is special for a few things, not least of which this book comes with an incredible set of signatures including Stan Lee, Rich Buckler and Jim Steranko, all in this one issue. The cover's illustrated by the legendary Rich Buckler, and as you can see, signed by both Rich Buckler and Stan Lee on the front cover. Rich Buckler was known for his work on Marvel's flagship series Fantastic Four, as well as the creation of cyborg anti-hero Deathlock. This cover, like many others at the time, was created specifically for those early Mighty World of Marvel issues, merging together elements from the 3 different stories reprinted inside into one dynamic image for these UK weeklies. Incredible Hulk, Daredevil, and the Fantastic Four. Clearly, Marvel decided to put their money on shelf appeal and make these covers pop, make them look special, even if the interiors were primarily black and white reprints. Let's take a look inside. Our first story is The Hulk Must Die, a reprint of the second story originally published in Tales to Astonish issue 78, with story by Stan Lee, layouts by Jack Kirby, and finished art by Bill Everett. This is a great example of early Marvel UK, and as you can see here, black and white art with that green spot colour over the top, and so very, very different to what you'd see in the US. They'd use the spot colour green and then zipper tone over the top to add some extra depth and shading to these stories, so quite unique in the presentation. We'll flip through and we'll see that story from Tales to Astonish issue 78, and with page 7 we revert fully to the black and white with just the zipper tone added for additional shading. And then back to the spot colour before we move to the Mighty Marvel mailbag. Again, UK readers would write in and send their letters to the Mighty World of Marvel mailbag and get responses each week. In addition, next week is the week you've been looking for. It's the week when we'll be publishing the name of our 50 Marvel Marvelites who've won the recent Amazing Spider-Man LP competition. Always full of competitions, these were great ways to get engagement from fans in the UK. Our next story is Trapped by the Fellowship of Fear, a reprint from Daredevil issue 6 featuring the first appearance of the Fellowship of Fear, written by Stan Lee and drawn by the legendary Wally Wood. Again with that green spot colour throughout, but certainly a very interesting way to see that original issue reprinted. One of my favourite things of the early Mighty World of Marvel books was these amazing full colour centre spread pages. And in here you get to see the exciting news about the Incredible Hulk, with Mighty World of Marvel issue 33 featuring 2 feature-length stories from the Incredible Hulk and a nice switch over, as well as a new surprise story featuring the Thing, the Human Torch and the Submariner in the next issue. I also love these great villain mini posters, one of the leader and one of Tyrannus, Master of the Underworld. These are a great addition. Why these Mighty World of Marvels are worth hunting out for these amazing extra pieces of content that wouldn't normally feature in a US copy. Before back to the Daredevil strip to finalise. One full story. Before we're on to our last story of the issue, Fantastic Four in the Mad Thinker's Master Plan, a reprint of the Fantastic Four Battle the Mad Thinker and his awesome android. A reprint of the first story from Fantastic Four 15, featuring the first appearance of the Mad Thinker, awesome android, and the legendary Yancey Street Gang. But perhaps my favourite part of this issue is this amazing pin-up of the Hulk Annual Issue 1 cover by Jim Steranko, but with his original art depiction of the Hulk's head, which at the time was considered too scary and monstrous. Thus, Maurice Severin, another legendary Marvel artist and colorist, was ordered by Stan Lee to redraw the Hulk's head in line with the standard Marvel Hulk. To make this more special, this is signed by Jim Steranko himself. And then we finish the Fantastic Four story before the final back cover, which features an advertisement for the Marvel fanzine FOOM. And you guessed it, signed by Stan Lee on the picture of the first issue, which also features a classic 70s pose from Stan Lee himself. What a great book. And there it is, Mighty World of Marvel, issue 31, signed by Stan Lee, Rich Buckler, and Jim Steranko. So that's it. I really hoped you enjoyed this look at a unique, one-of-a-kind early Mighty World of Marvel comic book. Marvel UK would go on to produce a huge array of titles over the next few years and would eventually grow to create its own original characters and stories like Captain Britain. What was your favourite comic or character from Marvel UK? Let me know in the comments down below. And before we close this video out, we're also giving away this copy of Fantastic Four 209 featuring the first appearance of Herbie the Robot. In order to enter, make sure you're subscribed to the channel and leave a comment down below with the hashtag Mighty World of Marvel, and we'll draw the winner on a future edition of the Merry Monday Mail Call Show. And with that, thanks as always for watching, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you all next issue. Don't forget to check out other great videos, as well as follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and X. We also host a weekly live stream, the Merry Monday Mail Call Show, every Monday morning at 7:30 AM Australian Eastern Time. Enough said.